Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home, the show dedicated to helping veterinarians, vet techs, dog trainers, shelter and rescue workers, pet sitters, and all the other animal crazy pet professionals manage their stress and find more joy. I'm your host, Colleen Pilar, and I'm thrilled you're here with us today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your favorite app so that you won't miss a single episode. This episode is brought to you by our free community, the Circle of Resilient and Thriving Pet Professionals. If you like the ideas shared here, then you're invited to continue the conversation with other lifelong learners in the community. You can find out more at colleenpilar.com. It's the perfect place for you to learn cool stuff, feel good, and take action to create the life you love. Come join us. Welcome back to Unleashed at Work and Home. My guest today is Teoti Anderson, and I have known Teoti 112 years, I think. I'm not quite sure, but we haven't seen each other in forever, so I'm so excited to get a chance to talk to her today and just sort of explore what her life has been like as a dog trainer and a writer who educates people about dogs and dog behavior. So welcome, Teoti. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. And we have known each other for over 100 years, yet we're both in our 30s. How does that even work?
How did
right?
that happen? It's amazing. Time, it's just a construct. So tell us a little bit about what it is you do, because you're not just a dog trainer. You do writing about dogs as well. So give us the background. Who is Teoti?
Yes, my life has thoroughly gone to the dogs. I am a professional trainer. And my husband and I co-own a dog's best friend in South Florida. We do in-home lessons and we do board and train as well. We do everything from training service dogs to the family dog, to therapy dogs, to ambassador dogs for corporations. And we work with aggression and fear cases as well. So we run the gamut there. It's quite a variety. I'm also an author. I've written 7 books on dog training, and I'm a columnist for Modern Dog Magazine. I also write for the Fear Free Happy Homes blog, which is hard to say 8 times real fast, and other publications. I also do public speaking. So I speak at conferences. I've got a conference coming up for pet sitters in September that I'll be speaking at, and conferences for other pet professionals and rescue groups and the public on occasion throughout the year.
Awesome. Yeah, that is a lot of credentials right there. 7 books.
Yes. I didn't write them all in one year, I promise.
Do people always ask you, do you have another book? What's your next book? I've written 3 and people keep asking me, what's the next one? I'm like, after each book, I'm pretty sure they're done. There isn't a next book. And then I've been surprised twice.
Right. It's not like you and I write serial. Like we left them on a cliffhanger and they're waiting to find out what happens to our main characters. We don't write those kind of books, at least not yet. So I do think it's funny. They don't ask as often for me of that. I do get asked about the next webinar because I do those and articles on occasion. It's mainly, though, day to day, it's about the dog training.
Mm-hmm. And so a question I always love to explore is, when you were 10, what did you think that you were going to be doing with your life and career?
When I was 10, I thought that I would be a writer. I wanted to write. It was what I excelled at school. Mm-hmm. Not the math, but the writing. I wanted to be a writer, and I've been very lucky that I've been able to combine multiple passions into a career. And I don't remember having great aspirations, like I'm going to be an astronaut, I'm going to do that. I just remembered that I wanted to write. I wanted to find a way to be able to write.
And did you believe that you wanted to write nonfiction, or did you not have any idea at 10 if it was?
I didn't have any idea. At the time I was writing fiction, but I didn't know that you could even make a career of it, really. I didn't really have that concept back then, but I knew that's what I loved to do. And I wanted to continue to do that.
Mm-hmm. And you did.
I did.
I know. That's so cool. I think it's so interesting how we talk to kids about their careers. Like they would have any idea what all the options are, because none of us have any idea what all the options are. And almost no one is doing what they thought they might want to do at 10. You are, not necessarily in a way that you envisioned at 10, but you absolutely are a writer. I mean, just the list of publications that you write for and continue to have columns within, and then 7 books. That's a writer. But for the most part, there's such a limited window of what we present to children, and then we expect them to choose. But I've always thought, if someone had asked me in 4th grade, would you like to be a dog trainer, and explained what that meant, I would have raised my hand. But no one ever said that. So I went through life thinking, I'll be a vet. And that was not the right path for me. So this Teoti who thought she'd be a writer, then it just all fell into place easily, and magically here you are. Is that how that turned out, or how did the career trajectory go?
Well, I met the unicorn when I was 11, and he showed me the path. No, it didn't work like that at all. I ended up, when I was deciding where to go to the college, I had narrowed down my school of choices, and I thought I wanted to go into journalism because that was as close to writing as you could get, other than going to the English route. And I remember getting the college course catalog and circling everything that interested me. And everything that interested me was in the journalism school. So I'm like, that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to be a journalist. And I didn't really want to be a hard-hitting reporter and go on to war and things like that, but I wanted to learn how to be in broadcast television. So I was a broadcast journalism major, and I loved it. It has actually served me well. I have done TV appearances, but I wanted to be behind the scenes. I wanted to either direct or be a producer, be behind the scenes. I didn't have aspirations to be on camera at all. I like the technical side. I like the direction. I like the organization of it, and making sure that, this was presented at the right time with this, and just putting that puzzle piece together to make a piece. I really wanted, when I was in school, to go into television, and radio called me first. So I went into radio, and I worked in radio for a couple of years. I did some on-air work, but I was a writer. I was hired as a copywriter. And so I wrote commercials in 30 and 60-second increments. That's how I learned to be very brief in my writing.
Yeah.
Yes. And from there, I got a different job and a corporate communications division for a major corporation. And that's basically an in-house ad agency. I worked there for 25 years. And my hobby, my passion on the side was dogs. And so I ended up having 2 jobs. I ended up starting my own dog training business. That's another story. While I held the corporate job, because in the market that I was in South Carolina, I couldn't sustain a living as a dog trainer.
Mm-hmm.
And back when we started, 110 years ago, you and me, making a living as a dog trainer was ridiculous. Who does that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen. But the corporate job enabled me to pay my bills, so that I could pursue continuing education, which was so important to me, and maintaining everything I needed to with my life so that I could pursue the other job. And then in 2000, so I basically held down 2 full-time jobs with that. I held group classes, private lessons. And then in 2016, I moved to South Florida to get married to my husband, and I joined his business, which was already established in me. So I'm training full-time. I've been training full-time since 2016.
Which is awesome. You were making me think about Liz Gilbert, the writer, who's talked about how she always promised writing, that writing wouldn't have to support her, that she would support writing. And when you say that you had the corporate job for 25 years, that supported the passion of the dog training. And the unfortunate reality is that for so many pet professionals, these are careers that don't necessarily earn a comfortable livable wage. And certainly in my case, it didn't. I mean, that my husband always turned a blind eye to the numbers that came in. And he saw value in that, which was really nice. But I had to do a little emotional adjusting to allow that to be the case, to recognize that in terms of finances, I wasn't contributing to the family in the same way as he was financially. And yet I was contributing to the society in my area and helping the dogs and the families. But I found it frustrating at times that it is a career that we almost have to be driven by passion for, because the finances are so tough. And it's just like childcare. Whatever you're paying your childcare provider is not enough. And whatever you're paying your pet professional, it's not enough. And it's also way more than you can afford. Both are true, always. So when you look at those challenges that you experienced in your 25 years of having basically a real job to support this passion job that was every bit as real and important to you, what thoughts do you have that might be helpful to somebody who is kind of navigating a middle ground, just to make it more comfortable to recognize that if you're not earning a full-time living as a dog trainer, it doesn't mean you're any less of one?
I love that exactly what you just said. I am known in the industry a bit. And it was as a part-time trainer during that whole time that I was making a name for myself. If you're good at what you do, and if you apply yourself with passion and dedication to understanding and studying a craft, whether it's dog training or childcare or being a lifeguard or accounting, then you can be accredited and valued for who you are. You don't have to do it full time. You can have your cake and eat it too. That's what I did. I needed health insurance. I had a mortgage. I mean, I went through a divorce. I had to pay bills. I had dogs. They needed to be kept in the lifestyle to which I had made them accustomed to. So I had to pay for that prescription food, darn it. So, and the vet bills and the cancers and all the things that we go through with our pets, as they get older. And I didn't have children, so I didn't have to worry about a college fund. That did make it a little bit easier, probably. But you can have your cake and eat it too. It takes balance. It takes care. It takes boundaries. For example, I would accrue vacation time at the corporate job. And the longer I was there, the more vacation time I had. And I liked my corporate job. I was good at it. I really enjoyed it. It was a good company to work for. I loved writing advertising and all the aspects. I did TV commercials. I wrote radio. I did billboards. I did all that stuff. It was very fulfilling for me. But I love the dog, and I love helping families with their dogs. And I loved unlocking the secrets to that canine mind. Like, why did your dog do that? Let's explore that a bit. But when I would accrue the vacation time for the corporate job, I would spend it at conferences learning about dog training. Later on, as I got more established, I would spend it speaking at conferences about dog training. So all of my vacation time was spent doing what I loved on the side. And to me, that was a vacation. Going to Wolf Park and getting up at 5:30 in the morning to do an ethogram. To me, that was vacation. It wasn't going to the Maldives and, soaking up the sun. So it helps to have that mindset. And tolerant, supportive partners is also quite a bit there. But you do have to have boundaries, because they can spill and you can get overwhelmed, and you have to learn when you need a break. And maybe sometimes vacations shouldn't be all about this. Maybe they need to be about self-care. But it can be done. And I don't think there's any shame in paying your bills in order to pursue something, whether it's art or dog training, that you feel really passionate about.
Yeah, I think there's such value in pursuing something that you feel passionate about, whatever it is, like one of my sisters likes building Lego kits, and she occasionally says, they're so expensive. And I'm like, and Like you enjoy doing them.
Yeah.
It's an experience. Like I'm not sure I see the downside here. She can afford them. They're not hurting her life by spending the money on Lego kits. And I'm like, great, Lego kits. Do I have an interest in doing that? No. But if you like it and you find it valuable, there's a tremendous value in doing what you like and finding those
Agreed.
things. One of the things that you said with the boundaries come up all the time. All the time. Everybody talks about boundaries. And there's such a tough topic for people pleasers. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed that quite a few pet professionals have some people pleasing tendencies that they would really
Yeah.
like everyone to be happy. Yes, yes. And that they're also responsible for making everyone happy all the time. And if people aren't happy, it's probably their fault. If someone might perhaps struggle with something like that, what tips do you have after 25 years of this that can help you to know what is your responsibility to deal with and what is something that you can safely go, well, look at you over there doing that. I'm not involved and I don't have to take any responsibility for it.
I'm going to borrow a phrase from my husband, who's been doing this as long as we have, and he says there's no such thing as a dog training emergency. And yes, your dog may have bitten someone, and I'm sorry that happened. That's terrible. But I can't drop everything I'm doing because your dog is now 8 years old, been exhibiting the behavior for 7 years, and you just decided to do something about it because your dog has bitten before, but has now bitten the wrong person, and now you're being sued. And it's not always that scenario, but people wait till the last minute to get help. They don't realize there is help, or they put it off. They think the behavior will go away. They hope it will go away. And when they call you, they're in crisis. And you cannot take that crisis into your body over and over again. Another thing is you can't care more than the client. I mean, there's situations when you go in and you're like, oh my gosh, we need to do this, this, and this. And they're like, yeah, no, I just need help with house training. And you're like, but the dog's scared of the car. We can fix that. And they're like, no, I just really want the dog to stop peeing on the rug. That's it. You can't care more than the client. If you have a non-compliant client who's just not doing anything, you can't fret over that. I mean, you can. It's just not healthy. And the challenge I always have is not so much about people pleasing, is that I'm a fixer by nature.
Mm-hmm.
And part of most of that career in the corporate world, I was an editor. So I fixed mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
My job was to go find them and fix them. I fix them by nature. I go find problem behaviors and I fix them. So I want to go in there with my, bandages and tourniquets and super glue and get to work. And you find that you don't have that much left for yourself. If you are staying up till 3 a.m. doing client reports, if you are taking phone calls on your day off, if you are spending 2.5 hours on a lesson when you're only getting paid for one, you're gonna hit burnout so fast. There's only so much of you that you can give before there's nothing left, and then you can't fix anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so easy to see in others and sometimes hard to see in ourselves.
Yes.
And hard to, at least for me, hard to take action on at the earliest signs. So like when I hit my burnout period, it felt to me like it came out of nowhere. When I look back on it, I'm like, oh yeah, you were blind. There were all sorts of things that I had been allowing to happen for years and years and years because that just was easier. It made it better for other people.
Right.
It made things smoother and again, fixing. Like I will fix to the nth degree. I am very eager to leap in there and make things better. And so from my experience, it felt like just suddenly out of the blue, I just didn't have any energy for any of it. I just couldn't figure out why. And now on the other side of it, I think, oh my gosh, what a miracle that I did as much as I did for as long as I did, because I didn't see all of the ways that I was chipping away at my own energy and my own reserves with such good intentions the best of intentions. Like I really, really
Absolutely.
thought I was helping and I was trying to make things easier and better and all the things. So I'm sure for some of our newer listeners, this sounds scary. But for those of us who've been in the career a long time, we know that there are peaks and valleys. There are times that we take better care of ourselves and times that we're not as good. And also that there is hope after burnout. You can have a period of burnout and you can come back or you can morph to something else. But we've also seen people leave the career because of it. Or in my opinion, something that's even worse is stay but no longer care. Like I think that's so much worse. I would much rather have you leave. Please, please, please leave if you just can't care. What do you think we as an industry and broadly, not just trainers, but like all the pet pros, what do you think we could be doing a little bit better to help people both recognize that this is a piece of it? We're all at risk of it, but that it doesn't need to be the kind of thing that we get to the bottom, burned out and just done.
Well, I think you said that we're being scary, and I think we are. It's not like you guys can't see us, you can only hear us, but Colleen and I do not have the lights off, and we were shining flashlights under our chin and telling you the ghost stories of bitter, bitter, bitter dog trainers. That's not the intent. But it's so funny because many years ago, I saw one of my very first Association of Professional Dog Trainers conferences. I saw Jean Donaldson speak. Brilliant Jean Donaldson. And I thought, she is so bitter. Now I'm like, oh, I get it. But I think we have some reassurance to me is that the tools that pet professionals, especially trainers and veterinarians, I'll say too, use to see a history of behavior looming. So we need to learn to apply that inward. So, for example, dogs don't bite out of the blue. They never bite out of the blue. So you go into a home and there's been a dog bite and you start talking and you go, okay, you're taking notes. You're like, okay, well, that was obviously that's a stress yawn. I know this dog, it's been brewing. I look at it as being on the bow of the Titanic going, there's an iceberg. Turn left. Okay, we hit the iceberg. But pet parents do not know those signs. They don't know what a stress yawn is. They don't know what an adrenaline shakeoff is. They don't know that one dog is giving the other the stink eye from across the room, and that's what's causing the bite. They don't know those things. That's our job to learn. So we have the observational skills. We just don't ever apply them to ourselves. We don't look in the mirror and go, you're looking a little haggard today. those bags are a little more pronounced. And what's that tick in your eye? Maybe, or, I couldn't get to sleep last night because my brain wouldn't turn off. You know what? Maybe that's a sign. Or I didn't really feel like going to the gym today. I was just exhausted. I didn't feel like hanging out with my friends tonight. They invited me to go out and normally I would, but I just can't muster. Well, maybe that's a sign. So I would say learning what your signs are, because they're different.
They're
different. If you're reaching for too much ice cream or too many cocktails, or maybe you're just sleeping more, or maybe you can't sleep, or maybe, you're avoiding, you've client reports to do and you're putting them off to the last minute. And that's why you're up so late. It's because you just didn't want to do them. If you can learn the signs in yourself, and I'm not saying it's easy, then I think that you can head it off because you have the observation skills to do it. We just have to be very honest with ourselves and find them in ourselves. And I know for me, I get a little short. It's like, I'm going to answer you, but it's going to be very quick because I'm multitasking. I'm moving on. And I don't sleep. My brain just won't stop. I start thinking about, oh, well, I could have done this, or I got this other client tomorrow and that's an aggression case, and this other client, my brain won't stop. And that's when I realized you need a break.
Mine are, I am super impatient. So you're taking too long to get to the end of your sentence. Come on. I'm like, wow. Because normally I'm super patient and I can listen to people all day long. But when I'm a little bit frazzled, then I'm like, Get to the point. And I must have chocolate. And I will tell myself not to have chocolate. So I will eat something else. It will not satisfy. and then I will eat something else and it will not satisfy, and then I will eat chocolate. So I will have eaten all day long, but nothing really solved the problem until I ate all the chocolate. So those are two of my biggies. They're definite signs, and there's a huge value in knowing them. You're right. Like we all have our signs, and they're different signs for different people. But once we know some of our own signs, they're such a great indicator because they are patterns, and we can. So like when I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I need some chocolate, it's a really valid question to go, and why might that be, Colleen? Why do you really think you need some chocolate? Because maybe I need to go have some chocolate and also a nap or a walk and some water and, but my brain only told me about the chocolate.
That was your brain's code. That was your code word for you're about to, danger, Colleen, danger. Mm-hmm. I think that those are wonderful examples. I think chocolate solves many things, actually, but I think those are wonderful examples. And knowing not only your personal symptoms, but what are your also personal mechanisms for peace. Mm-hmm. I'm very fortunate now to live in South Florida, and when I'm having a really rough day, I go look at the ocean. Mm-hmm. The ocean makes me feel better. It just always has. It comes in and goes out with or without me. It kind of puts me in perspective. I find it soothing, and it existed before I was here. It exists long after I'm gone, and I just find to be a little comfort in that continuity. And for somebody else, it may be a walk in the woods. For somebody else, it may be chocolate. It may be music. It may be, hugging your dog. They're all therapy dogs for us, aren't they? Mm-hmm. It may be doing something with a friend, calling a friend and going to a movie, or just hanging out, or weekend with the girls or the boys or whatever. If you know what your treatment plan is for feeling better, and hopefully it's a healthy one. Also, please recognize the unhealthy ones. Mm-hmm. Then you will avoid burnout, and you can last in this business as long as Colleen and myself.
So good. How far away is the ocean from you?
15 minutes.
Oh, wow. So when you need an ocean fix, it's pretty easy to get, huh?
Yes, it is. And it's often in line with a lot of my clients, because we go out and do in-home lessons. So every now and then I'll just slow down. It comes with pros and cons. We have season, which is where all the tourists are here in spring break. I'm right outside Fort Lauderdale. So it sometimes ocean related traffic is a cause for stress and the need for chocolate and a nap. But like, oh, the snowbirds are back. When do they leave? But it's just, it's really nice to have it so close by.
My eldest son and daughter-in-law were just in Fort Lauderdale a weekend ago. Oh! So they were there contributing to your traffic, going, oh, look, an ocean.
Hopefully I didn't beep at them. I don't usually do that.
That would be another one of my signs. Like, I am a very patient driver. And if I find myself getting irritated with other drivers, I'm like, oh, look, the drivers are the same. The Colleen is different. What might I need to do? So I asked all of my guests to share some words that had meaning to them. And you shared a particularly interesting phrase. I'm so curious about it. It's an acronym, Q-tip. And tell us what Q-tip means.
It means quit taking it personally.
And where did this little bit of wisdom come into your life from?
So I'm pretty sure I learned it when I was involved in pet therapy. I was involved with Pet Partners for many, many years. They used to be called the Delta Society. Mm-hmm. And I was a volunteer with that organization. I also served as an instructor and an evaluator for that organization. And when I was going through my lessons and my classes to learn how to be a pet partner, I remember being given that phrase. And I've used it ever since, to the point where I have advocated somebody, just keep a Q-tip in the car in case you need it. And that's not for your ears. It's to look at it and go, okay. Because we are in the service industry, whether you're a pet sitter, whether you're a veterinarian, whether you're a professional dog trainer, we're in a service industry. And as such, we have to deal with the public. A lot of times, you're not just dealing with the dog problem, you're dealing with a family issue or family contentiousness the one spouse is ready to get rid of the dog. The other spouse never wanted the dog. The children are bickering. Things are going on in that family dynamic that we walk into and we're like, we're just here for the dog. We don't need to deal with all this problem here. Stop calling each other names. So it becomes, it's like, I'm not a therapist. That's not what I do. So you can often be the target for vitriol or someone's bad day. Maybe Colleen is in need of chocolate and she's behind you and she beeps because you didn't turn left fast enough. Right? But it has nothing to do with you. It really has nothing to do with you. If people are upset that they may have to euthanize their dog because the dog's behavior and they lash out at you, it's not really about you. And it's so easy, especially for people pleasers, to take it personally. And when you do that, you burn out faster. So specific example I have is I was doing a therapy visit with my perfect unicorn of a dog, my heart dog. He was a 3-legged Labrador who started me on this journey. And we were there, a bunch of us were there. There was a miniature schnauzer and a golden retriever and some sort of terrier mix. And we approached an older woman in a nursing home. And we said, would you like to visit with the dogs? And she said, yes. And she started looking at all of us like we were in a lineup. And she said, I want that one. And she pointed to the miniature schnauzer. And she said, the rest of them are ugly. And you can imagine what that knee-jerk response was. My dog is ugly. You're crazy. Now you can call me ugly every day, but not my dog. And so I could see us all bristling up like, my dog's ugly. I came here and I took time out of my day and I'm a volunteer. Of course, none of us said any of those things. And I stopped myself because I felt that adrenaline shooting up, me getting all offended, realizing this woman is in assisted living.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she had a miniature schnauzer. Maybe she does think our dogs are ugly. It has nothing to do with me. She's allowed to have that opinion. I don't need to carry this the rest of the day and tell 800 people that my dog is not ugly and post pictures of him to prove his beautifulness. I don't need to do that, right? This was before Instagram, by the way, where I could have gotten that validation. But it wasn't personal. It wasn't personal. And I think it's so easy, especially today, for everybody to just get so offended by everything that if you just realize that a lot of that anger that does come your way, or maybe they didn't answer the way you wanted, or maybe they didn't call you back right away, or maybe they didn't text you right away. It had nothing to do with you. It's because they have busy lives and they had some crisis happen. And it's just healthier to realize that you're not the center of everyone's universe. And so it's not always about them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's again, one of those things that's really easy to see for other people and hard sometimes to see for ourselves. Like when someone would say my dog is ugly, really hard for me to be objective and distant. But when I hear someone saying your dog was ugly, I'm like, oh, that is so not about you or your dog or any of that. I'm like, this poor woman had no filter. And, like there we were. And yet when it's you in the moment, it's not as easy to Q-tip ourselves and to remember. Today, I had a coaching call with a client who regularly texts for, she does like outdoor walks and adventures. So the time is a little bit stretchy, so it's not a set time. And the client regularly texts for information about what time, was pick up or drop off. And the feeling is like, is she mad? Is she judging? Is she upset? And I'm like, she might just want info. She might just want info. Like I don't care what the answer is, but I'm curious. What time? But the piece in our brain that's like, am I making you happy? Comes up for people a lot. That even a statement that is just objectively neutral can be perceived as a judgment or a criticism. And then we add in all of the emotion pieces. And anyone who's called a dog trainer is at some level of emotion. Because if everything is easy, they're not calling us. They
Right.
like,
Right. Nobody calls us about Lassie.
yeah. And in any given household, there are different opinions on what should be done about this particular behavior. And so by the time the trainer shows up, there are definitely have been conversations in which it's that you should be firmer, or you should be looser, or you should be more consistent, or you should be. So which one of us is right? Come tell us. And there you are in the middle being like, I'm not actually judging either of you. I'm just trying to make this all work for your dog. Unlocking the secrets, I think is what you called it earlier. Unlocking the secrets of why your dog is doing that. And that is a particular gift. But it's tricky. So Q-tip from pet partners. Have you shared this advice with anyone else? Have you shared
Yeah.
Q-tip with?
I've shared it with people, especially in volunteer settings. It's really applicable, but I do think it's also applicable in business meetings, whether you're in corporate or not. I would be in a corporate meeting and some vice president would just come in a mood and he would be railing against this, that, and the other thing. And it's against a creative team, because we were a creative team within a corporate environment, which not everybody can survive that, by the way. And the creatives would all be like, "Oh, he didn't like my design," and how it had nothing to do with that. It's he didn't get his bonus, or he had a bad shareholder. There's all sorts of things that go on that you are not privy to, and you just happen to be the brunt of it. And so I think that it works on a couple different levels. But you're right. Your initial response is to go, "What?" And then I'm much better since I've held on to that little mantra. I'm much better about stopping myself before I just spiral into the gloom and doom. Is why is this being done to me? Why is it to me? What did I do to deserve this?
Yeah. I like that it's a cute little acronym too of an object that we all know. Like, because we've all heard don't take it personally,
Right.
which is not all that sticky. But quit taking it personally. It's a Q-tip. That's kind of sticky. Like that is a memorable way of thinking about it, which it obviously was because you heard it years ago with pet partners and you still think about it and it's words that matter to you. So in a moment when something hits you wrong, do you consciously tell yourself to Q-tip, or have you gotten so that it's just sort of a relatively normal experience for you and you just move through it?
Both, and it depends on where I am in my self-care
It
route.
depends.
It depends. It's our favorite answer. If I'm having a bad day, I'm less likely to Q-tip more than most, or if it's just been one thing after another, like 5 people coming at me. But I'm so much better at it now that I'm older because it has become a practice, and it's also because I've got more experience. The more you do anything, I think you get more comfortable with different scenarios and being put in situations where it's not as uncomfortable, and also having some self-confidence in yourself. I've been at this a while. I'll never know everything there is to know about dog training, and the second I do, I hope you as my friend slap me silly and tell me, get the Q-tip, you need to get a hold of yourself, because we never stop learning. But I do believe that with practice and with studying and all those things comes the confidence that you're like, oh, this really isn't about me.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you don't care. It just means that you're not taking it personally when somebody is rude or the appearance of being rude to you. That's
right. And I like that distinction right there, because you can care very much about the end result of your work.
right.
And
yes.
you'll probably be able to do better work when you're not taking it personally. So it's not a dissociation from the caring as much as about the judgment. It's a dissociation from the judgment piece. I like too that you said it, practice and experience. And I think that so much of this really is just like creating new behavior patterns for ourselves and trying to step into them. And sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And we figure out like, okay, we've done it enough. Now I know how to make it a little bit better for me. And I also know it's survivable when it isn't that good. Like, oh,
yeah,
that didn't go so well. And I'm still here. Okay. So that piece too. There's so many benefits to aging, but for me, honestly, that's been just huge. Just this whole like acceptance of like, this is fine. It's fine. We're good.
It's fine.
I can handle this.
Yes,
what
exactly.
freedom. Because there was pretty many times in my life that I was certain I could not handle things. And if I did not handle them, that the whole world was just going to poof, gone.
Exactly.
Like the ocean, it's still going to be there.
It's still going to be there. It comes in, it goes out, doesn't care about you at all. You're not helping.
Yep. This is awesome. I love this. And I am sure people will resonate with Q-tip just because it is so clever and simple to recall. So thank you for talking to me today. If people wanted to learn more about you and your work, how could they do that?
Easiest one is to go to my website. It's teotianderson.com. And that's Teoti, as no one knows how to spell it, Anderson, Anderson.com. I'm also on Instagram. You can find me there, and Facebook on at Teoti Anderson.
Awesome. Okay. I will link all of that up in the show notes. Thank you so much for talking with me today, Teoti.
So good to see your face and so good to talk to you.
Thanks for listening to Unleashed at Work and Home. I invite you to come learn more at colleenpilar.com, where you can be steady, be strong, and be long.